And welcome to Two Guys on Politics. I'm here, Ray Hanania, with my co-host Bill Lipinski. We got a bunch of great things to talk about here on September 6th, 2025, Season 4, Episode 25, twoguysonpolitics.com. In our first segment, we're going to talk about Robert Kennedy and COVID vaccines. What the heck is going on in his mind? Trump's decides that he's in the fight between Trump and local governors about sending the National Guard to fighting crime, and Trump renaming the Defense Department the War Department. I wonder what that means. And in segment 2, we're going to talk about how Trump is entering the New York City elections between Zohran Mamdani and Andrew Cuomo, who lost to Zohran but is running again. And then we'll talk a little bit about Raja Krishnamoorthi and this pattern of candidates who come up with these cute things that they say and do, become popular, but never really tell you how they're going to address the top challenges that we face. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with our program right after these. I'm Ray Hanania.
And I'm Bill Lipinski, and this is Two Guys on Politics.
And Bill, we got some really good topics. Excitement, there's nothing like excitement in politics. I don't know about substance, but excitement is always good. Robert Kennedy Jr., someone I really like because I grew up loving the Kennedy name. And that kind of rolled off a little bit on Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the son of the assassinated Senator Robert Kennedy, who was going to run for president. That I can't get over that. Even how many years has it been? 70 years. I've lost count. I still don't believe they've ever explained what really happened to JFK and RFK. I think there are all kinds of conspiracies, but I guess I'm in my 70s. I have to give up on that. But Robert Kennedy Jr. apparently is so unliked by the rest of the family that they've distanced themselves from him. But President Trump has taken over the Kennedy Center. It's like there's a war on the Kennedys or something. So Robert F. Kennedy, is appointed by Trump as the health director. And he has a weird attitude toward COVID. He thinks it's some kind of conspiracy. And he believes the vaccines, and this has been something that's been going on for years too, that vaccines cause all kinds of other problems. So he's limited vaccines. He's, fighting, spending money on COVID vaccines. I don't know. Have you heard about all this? I mean, it's all over the place.
I'm sure everybody on the face of the planet has heard about this. I understand that Trump is planning on changing the name of the Kennedy Center to the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Center.
You probably would.
I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah, now, getting down to the serious subject.
Yeah.
The problem I see with Kennedy is that he definitely sounds like he knows what he is talking about in regards to COVID and a number of other vaccinations. I mean, this is not some guy, some weirdo who's just shooting things off to get publicity. Right. He can back up everything he has to say. Now, 90% of the people in the healthcare industry are on the opposite side from him. They disagree with what he has to say. But because he makes a strong presentation, because he's supported by Trump, and because he sounds like he knows, and I think he knows what he is talking about. I think he's to the wrong conclusions about things, but he has a lot of evidence to back up his point of view. I think that Trump is starting to drift away from him somewhat because I think his positions are beginning to hurt Trump and his base. And because of that, I think Trump is starting to drift away. The other day, he made a statement, something about, Bobby's very interested in this stuff. He knows a lot about it. maybe he should review it a little bit. I don't know. There was a cautionary statement by Trump. And once that starts happening, you start getting close to walking the plank for him.
It could be. No, listen, I think you're right. I mean, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is smart. When you listen to him,
No
he
question.
knows what he's talking about. The problem with him, and I don't understand why it's a problem, he comes from the aspect of conspiracy, what some people would say conspiracy theories, that the vaccines cause all these other problems that kids have when they're young, a whole array of them. He says that the COVID was politicized. I'm not, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I mean, I think that COVID pandemic was a serious threat. We lost 1 million people died,
Absolutely.
during COVID, during those, what was it, 2.5 years, COVID-19. And it kind of petered out, I think, in 2022, maybe sometime. So it's hard to know exactly when it ended because COVID continues to come back with new generations of the virus, But I remember when COVID first hit in, I think it was the December 2019. And in, I think, January, February, one of my best friends, who happened to be in his 70s, a couple of years older than me, got the COVID illness and died within like 2 weeks because the doctors had said, don't worry, just go home, relax. They gave him the shot. He went home. And then his wife, this guy's name was Mansour Tadros, he published an Arab American newspaper. He was actually the first person in Chicago, the Chicago area, to die of COVID. So I was able to get the media to do stories about his life and what happened to him. It was kind of a monumental story at the time. But he was at home after they sent him home, and he was having trouble breathing. They called the ambulance to come and pick him up. By the time the ambulance got there, he was so bad that he got in the ambulance. He died in the ambulance. That's how serious the COVID virus was. Now, Kennedy seems to be thinking in terms of not so much COVID, but the vaccine production, how much money is being spent, for vaccinations and stuff like that. And I'm not sure why we're focused on that, that the pandemic was the pandemic and there's a possibility that it'll come back. Do you think COVID was a serious,
Oh,
illness?
I think it was very serious, and I think
Yeah,
the federal government and the Trump administration did a tremendous job in getting this vaccine to fight it, and I think it saved thousands and thousands of lives in this country by having that vaccine in such a short span of time. I do not agree with Kennedy. I understand his point of view, but I think he's using the wrong data to prove his point. I talked to my doctor about getting the vaccine for this coming year, and he said, yes, I should definitely get it. He also said, make sure I get the flu shot, but don't get it until the end of September, so that when the flu season and the COVID virus is really back, my vaccination will be at the height of its strength. So people who are getting it today really shouldn't be. They should be waiting till the end of the month, and at that time they should get it. Now, because of Bobby Kennedy, I think there's a lot of people who aren't going to get this. Now, a big problem I see, though, is because he recommends the COVID only for people 65 and older.
right.
So that means that anyone under 65 years of age that wants to get it is probably going to have to pay for it out of their own pocket. Because by Kennedy making that recommendation, it doesn't mean that the healthcare industry has to foot the bill.
Right.
Very significant, very significant.
Yeah, that's a great point. I didn't think of that. I knew he said that it should only be for people that are 65 or older. But I have to tell you, during the whole COVID pandemic, I did get COVID one time, and it was very mild. Now, I think it impacts people differently, obviously.
Yes.
Some people I knew, and I had gotten the COVID vaccinations also myself. I don't see why people shouldn't be able to get the COVID vaccinations if they want it. And I don't see why he's trashing the vaccinations. What he should be doing is going after the pharmaceutical industries that make the vaccinations so expensive that profit over our suffering. That's the fight he should be fighting. So what if make the vaccinations if you want it or I want it, and if it does us some good, so what? Do it. Why fuel the negative feeling that vaccinations, won't stop COVID? I think he's focused in the wrong direction, as Health and Human Services Secretary. I think he's a smart guy. I really like him. But I think he grew up in this atmosphere of conspiracy theories and he can't get it out of his head. And it's kind of sad because instead of slashing funds for the vaccine research, he really should take on the real problem in the health industry, and that's the health industry moguls who are make billions in profits and charge us so much just to get basic health care. That's the real problem. That's what he should be addressing. Instead of fighting this battle over COVID, why not just have it? I'll get the vaccination if I want it. Maybe I don't want it, but why put so much effort into that? It seems like that's the political side of what he's doing rather than the practical side. Make health, insurance companies bring down the cost, force them to provide the services that they should provide, to American citizens, and find a way to make healthcare, less expensive.
I agree with everything you have to say. The amount of money that the pharmaceutical companies are making, the amount of money that the insurance companies are making, and the amount of influence those two entities have on the United States government at the present time in regards to all health care, I think is a tragedy. And I'll tell you what's going to happen, Ray. You're going to get a president in the very near future who are much more interested in bringing total health care to people. And we are going to wind up with government-controlled, government-financed health care in this country. Now, they have it in Canada. It works very well if you don't need an operation immediately because you have to wait too long, but you have the United States to come down and get your operation. Well, we won't have that because our people aren't going to go to Mexico to get an operation. You can't go to Canada to get it because they have a long waiting line for their own people. So something has to be done about that particular factor. And the reason for that is because of national health care. The doctors are not paid as much as they, have been. So there are fewer people becoming doctors. The pharmaceutical industry isn't making that much money anymore because the government refuses to pay so much more than they think it's worth. The insurance companies are having a problem. All the insurance companies probably will be driven out of business entirely. So they're all opposed to it, but they're bringing it upon themselves by the tremendous amounts of money that they are charging for healthcare in this country. It's great healthcare, but I have very good healthcare. You probably have very good healthcare, but there are an awful lot of people in this country who don't have it. And for me to advocate government-controlled, government-financed healthcare is really a step in a different direction for me because I'm a very conservative individual.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that healthcare varies, and it really shouldn't vary. We should have a national healthcare policy, but of course, that would undermine the robber barons in the healthcare industry who are making fortunes,
absolutely,
on healthcare because there's certain healthcare companies that operate in certain states and they have different regulations. It's a spaghetti mess, and we should start from scratch, eliminate those companies, and create a national healthcare. That's what he should be focused on. It's not an easy challenge, but wow, for the person who could overcome, that hurdle and bring affordable health care in a smart way that's effective to the people of America. That would be somebody that I think this country needs. But I agree with you a lot.
I just want to mention, when you
Sure.
talk about conspiracies, and I know you have never been satisfied with the situation when John F. Kennedy was assassinated and what the real facts were about it. Now, I just want to say for the record, I was alive. I was 23, 24 years old. I know where I was when he was shot. Okay, I know where I was when Bobby Kennedy was shot. There was no conspiracy theories whatsoever about JFK's assassination until maybe 2-3 years afterwards. And at that point, certain members of the news media started talking about conspiracy, okay? Maybe there was, but I didn't think so at the time. And for the first
Right.
2 to 3 years, I don't think anybody else in America thought. Everybody thought what was reported was it, but it has grown stronger and stronger over the course of the years. There's been TV programs about it, movies about it. I would think that if the what is it? The
CIA.
Intelligence Agency, the FBI, the Secret Service, if any of them were involved, it would have come out by now.
Well, we didn't know back in when Kennedy was assassinated in 1963. I was 9 years old, and you're right. I remember exactly the square and the cement sidewalk next to Warren Elementary School when I was returning to lunch, when somebody yelled from the playground through the fence, "Hey, they killed the president." And I looked at him and I go, "What president? I'm 9 years old. I don't know anything about politics." And we knew the president was a handsome guy, and he had a great family and 2 kids that we loved following. But we didn't know at the time that Jack Ruby was running a mob-controlled dance hall bar that was associated with the mob, and that he was tied to the mob. And we didn't know that the mob, was upset with the Kennedys because they felt betrayed when he appointed Robert F. Kennedy as the Attorney General to investigate the mob, after the mob went out of their way to steal the election in Chicago for JFK to get him elected. That was a close election. Those votes that the mob stole in Chicago.
Just for the record here, Ray, there is that story about Chicago, counting more votes than there actually were. All right. But in reality, Kennedy, he had won that election before Illinois ever reported, because he won Texas. And by winning Texas,
yes,
it gave him the electoral votes necessary to become president.
That's true. But nobody knew that until after the election. Kennedys didn't know that they were going to, the father, Joseph Kennedy, didn't know that his son was going to win. He thought it was very close. They didn't see those numbers until after they talked to the mob and said, "You got to steal those votes for us." So you're right. They didn't have to steal the votes, but the fact was...
What evidence do you have that the mob stole votes for him in Chicago?
Numerous. I've read numerous books about it and investigations. I seriously believe that, God, you know what? That I know that's hard to believe that a vote would be stolen in Chicago, So
I've told you the story. I won't go into details. That in one mayoral election, I did get a call from a very nice fellow that I knew, asking me about 9 o'clock at night if I could find some more votes.
That was for Blandick, right?
Yeah, yes, for Blandick, yes.
It could have helped. You never knew. So we didn't know all that stuff when Kennedy was killed, and that's what started to come out and started to fuel what they called conspiracy theories, because they wanted this wrapped up, sealed, and they wanted to move on. Anyway, we should move on, I think, to
I think so, yes.
Our next topic is the Trump is calling the National Guard to fight crime. And, I think it's a good idea, and within reason, though. But, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, their crime is out of control in a lot of American big cities. There's no question about that. But unless the governor of the state ask the federal government, the president, to bring troops in to help fight crime. I don't think it should be done. And on top of that, the United States military is really not trained to fight crime. They're trained to fight wars. So they would really have to go through some police training to come in and be effective. That's number one. But more important than that, it's against the Constitution for federal troops to be used on American soil to do anything unless the governor asks for it. Okay, if the governor asks for it, that's fine, that's acceptable. Now, let me tell you though, the recent poll I saw was that said 63% of Americans are all for the federal troops coming in and becoming policemen in the big cities to fight crime. Okay, 62%. Now, even more significant to me is the fact that I have talked to three very good friends of mine. They are three intelligent people. They are three experienced people. And they could care less about Trump violating the United States Constitution by sending troops in to a city to fight crime. Now, I think the U.S. Constitution, is like a sacrament. You don't violate that. That's what made us different. That's why we are the exception to the rule around the world. But amazingly, how many American people don't care, and how many people I know that have done many great things in their lifetime, they don't care either. Go right ahead and do it. So that concerns me.
Well, to me, I definitely am in favor of it, but the caveat is that the focus seems to be on the politics now rather than on the threat of crime. Now, Chicago says, well, our crime rate is down. That's relative. It was so high that when it comes down, they're saying, oh, it's okay. No, it's not okay. I still am afraid to go downtown. I'm still afraid to walk through certain neighborhoods in Chicago or drive through them. It's a scary place in Chicago because the crime is not something that just happens by accident. There's a likelihood that you go to certain areas of the city and even in the suburbs, it's spilling out into the suburbs. We need to do something about crime, and they need to stop saying, oh, it's getting better. It's not getting better. It's bad. And being less bad isn't better. It's still bad. But my idea is if they would focus on the crime, and if Trump wasn't playing politics, and if J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, and Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, weren't playing politics, they would say, hey, the fact that you're concerned about crime in Chicago, let's sit down and figure out a way to do something that addresses crime. But they're all using it for political purposes. Governor Pritzker is using it to fuel his campaign for president. He wants to run for president. Now, I grant him that he hired a great speechwriter because in the last 3 months, he's given the best speeches I have ever heard him give in his entire life. And he's lost half his weight. He looks far better as a candidate. This guy is more consumed, though, with running for president than he is about solving the problems he keeps throwing at Trump and that Trump keeps responding. And Trump is no better. He's doing the exact same thing. Poor Brandon Johnson, though, he's very unpopular. He doesn't have the votes to do anything. And he can't, and I don't know who could become mayor of Chicago and solve the problems that the city of Chicago has, let alone solve the crime problem.
Well, it was not a good weekend for the governor or for the mayor.
Well, that's true.
Some odd people were shot in Chicago over the last weekend, and what, 3 or 4 of them died? I mean, 60 people over a 3-day period of time were shot, were wounded. People now in the news media say they were injured. Yeah, they were injured by bullets. We used to call that being wounded.
Yes, and 7 or 8 people died, right?
I think so. It's probably up to that by now, yes. Mm-hmm. So that was not the weekend to say, no, we don't need any help. We're getting crime under control.
Right, and then I think the other part of this is that the timing of bringing in the National Guard to fight crime overlaps his crackdown on illegal aliens, which
Yes.
I think is a problem we need to address. It's proper to say illegal aliens because they came into the country illegally.
Right.
Let's be honest about it. Now, some people don't like that label, but it's the true label of what these people are. They came in illegally, and I say that from whose parents were immigrants who came in legally, and it was a hard process, and they were forced to learn English, and they learned English, they learned the Constitution, they learned about being an American. And I think that everybody that comes in should go through that process, but we're not doing that. But I think Trump decided to bring this to Illinois now because we have Mexican Independence weekend coming up, and he is scaring the bejesus out of the Mexican community. There's talk about how parades are going to be canceled because the ICE and the National Guard are going to be there to arrest and grab people from the parades. And they're talking about responding to these ICE. It's creating an atmosphere of conflict instead of resolution and solving an important problem.
Absolutely. I mean, I had a friend of mine who was of Mexican heritage, who was born here, but he is afraid to go to the parade because he has heard that ICE is going to swoop in and arrest everybody at the parade,
Right.
put them in some kind of concentration camp, and then over the course of the next 6 months, they'll weed out and figure out exactly who's legal, who isn't legal. And if you're legal, they'll return you. Now it might be a month, 2 months, 3 months, 5 months before you get back to your job and to your family. Now that's totally ridiculous. That's not going to happen. But once again, here is a person who is an intelligent person, a successful person, and he's afraid to go to the parade because he looks like he's darker skinned. He looks like he's a Mexican. He's afraid he's going to be picked up and put in a concentration camp for 6 months. That's a terrible situation to have in this country. And unfortunately, I think it's brought on by the man who sits in the White House at the present time. I put it at his doorstep. I think we should remove anybody that is here illegally, but there's a way to go about it. And he's not doing it as usual. He's using a sledgehammer instead of a knife to get after a problem.
And that reminds me of the conspiracy theory. That's a conspiracy theory that this is all done. They're going to round up all these people and grab them and hold them in prison. So, and the same people saying it are probably people who don't believe in the JFK conspiracy theory. So I don't know. But the problem isn't being addressed again. This is another issue where instead of addressing the problem, they're addressing the politics, like they're doing with COVID. It's all about politics. This illegal immigration is aliens. I don't consider legal immigration is being addressed as politics, and that's the problem. We need to take a quick break, and then we're gonna come back and do our second segment. We're going to look at the New York City elections. And we should end this by saying that maybe that's why Trump wants to name the Department of Defense the War Department, because he is confrontational, isn't he? He's not defensive about anything. All right, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. And welcome back to Two Guys on Politics. Remember, you can go to twoguysonpolitics.com to look at or to watch and listen to all of our prior podcasts. This is actually season 4, episode 25. We're doing a lot, Bill. And when we got a lot of good followers too that are excited about each episode every week, we're slowly building up that following among
glad to hear that.
COVID deniers and illegal immigrant deniers and stuff like that. Crime deniers. There's no crime in America.
The Kennedy assassination.
Yes, and there was no assassination. What is this about the Kennedy assassination? So this in this segment, we're going to talk about President Trump entering the New York City election for mayor between Zohran Mamdani and Andrew Cuomo, who he beat, I guess, in the open primary that they had, the primary. And now
Yes.
they're going
Well,
into
it
the
was a
election.
Democratic primary. But even
Democrat.
if you lose the Democratic or Republican primary, you can run as an independent, and that's what Cuomo is doing.
Now, a loser can run in New York, but not
Right.
in Chicago,
No,
right?
no,
It,
absolutely not.
well, then we're better than New York, at least in one
Always have been.
aspect.
We're the capital of the Midwest.
Well, what is Trump doing? I mean, what do you see Trump doing? How is he trying? Why is he? I mean, I understand why he's entering this. He doesn't like Zoran Mamdani because he's a far left radical in his view. I happen to like Zoran Mamdani, but and I don't know Trump. You think he's a big pal of Andrew Cuomo to help him out? But this
No,
is what is he doing?
I don't
What
understand what he's doing. He wants to appoint the present
Eric
mayor
Adams?
of New York, who's running in this election, to become an ambassador to some country in Africa. I forget what the name of the country is, to get him out of the race. And then
Right,
he's pressuring another guy to get him out of the race. He wants the race to be between Cuomo and your candidate, the socialist. Okay. Why? I
right.
don't know. Why does he want to make Cuomo, who I believe is a better candidate nationwide, you know, than your guy is? But who knows what Trump or I have no idea why Trump is doing this, but he certainly is getting himself involved in that race. Maybe it's something about New York City. Maybe it's something about buildings he owns there. I don't know. I mean, if a guy is involved in conspiracy, Trump is a man who's always involved in conspiracies about something, and it usually comes down to real estate. But why do you think he's doing this?
Well, this is one of Trump's problems. He can't focus on getting anything done. He got elected on the promise that peace on day one. We would have peace in Ukraine. We would have peace in Gaza. We'd have peace all over the world. I have the art of negotiation. I wrote a book on it and made billions by knowing how to negotiate. And then he gets into office and we have none of that. So it's like he deflects and he distracts. Oh, there's a fight in New York. Let's get involved in that. Oh, Robert F. Kennedy is starting to whoop up the dust on COVID. Let's get involved in that. Trump's problem is he looks at Zoran Mamdani, who was elected by the voters of New York City. And I know you're not a big fan of his, but I like him. He has said all the things that need to be said. They need to do more to fight crime. They need to do more to provide health care. They need to improve education, that all these different things, and they need to help the poor. That's his platform. And Cuomo ran and lost. And it was embarrassingly a loss to him. But Trump decides that, listen, if I can get Eric Adams, the mayor who Mamdani would have to face, if he can get Eric Adams to step down, and Curtis Sliwa. I don't know if you remember Curtis Sliwa. Do you remember?
No,
He
I don't.
wore a red cap. I can't remember what the group they called it, but they were on the streets in New York in
Oh,
the
I know. Yeah,
80s.
in fact, I
Yeah.
met that guy. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me
I
too.
know
I taught. He was a
exactly what
great
you're
guy
talking
back
about.
then. He was a
Yes.
good guy back then. And he created these volunteer police watchdogs. They didn't carry weapons, and they would walk around and help protect citizens, kind of doing what Trump wants to do with the National Guard today.
Yeah.
He wants
Sort
to
of.
send
Yeah, he
people to
was.
the.
I went to a dinner. I was on a fact-finding mission in New York City, and we were invited to a dinner at Gracie Mansion by America's mayor, uh, Giuliani, and that guy was there. That guy was there, and Giuliani treated him like his, you know, like his lapdog. At one point, he
It's
said, "My son wants to play some catch. Will you go outside and play catch with him?" And he dutifully got up and went outside to play catch. Yeah, my impression of him is not very strong whatsoever. So I think he ought to get out of the race. But
Well,
you know,
Curtis was a radio talk show host in New York, and
oh, was he?
I
Oh, okay.
remember after I got into that tiff with Jackie Mason over stand-up comedy after September 11th, Curtis brought me on his radio show and did many interviews with me and helped promote the fact, that I was out there. So I like Curtis. Now
Good.
Curtis can't win though. He can't win. He doesn't. He's a good guy, but he doesn't have the base. Eric Adams, he's the mayor. Very controversial. Hasn't done a great job. New York is in trouble. And Andrew Cuomo was all about politics and living off of his family name, the Cuomos. There's so many Cuomos, I can't tell the difference between one Cuomo and another. So they're all kinds. The governor, the TV guy, this perpetual candidate for office. So to me, Zohran Mamdani is a good guy, but Trump sees it as an opportunity to further empower the MAGA, the Make America Great group, and to push them to get involved, with his message. Look at the radicals who are trying to take over our country. This is us against them. And I don't like the us against them because we're talking about America. It should be rather, how do we bring everybody together? How do we get people to work together? How do we calm down the extremists on both sides, the left and the right, and make America a better country? But instead of doing that, it's about politics. And, with his new War Department, he could declare a war any place and do what Zelensky has done and postpone the presidential election and stay in office for 8 more years instead of just 3.
How's he doing with getting that war going down in South America? Has he had any luck?
He has he put our battleships down there, and someone's gonna hit the ship. Like the Gulf of Tonkin during the Vietnam War, they alleged that somebody attacked one of our cruisers, one of our ships, and they used that as the precedent to approve the Gulf of Tonkin resolution. I think it was in 1966, which became the basis for LBJ to send 500,000 troops to Vietnam. And we know how that turned out. It didn't turn out very well.
No, it did not. No,
yeah, so I think that
over there. If you had gotten there, Ray, we would have won that one.
I was on my way. I volunteered. Unlike a lot of other people my age in school, they were hiding from the Vietnam War. But I decided, my number's up. I better enlist. So I enlisted in the Air Force, served at a F-111 base in Mountain Home, Idaho for 2 years that was supposed to be moved to Vietnam during the war. But about 6 months after I got in, Nixon announced that, we're going to get out of this war. I go, oh, now you tell me? But I'll tell you the best thing I did was, and I say this to every young person listening, that the best thing I did was to enlist in the military. It woke me up. I became a better person. I matured. I understood things. And when I got out, I did so much better in school and in life as a result of that military service.
Oh, I think that's absolutely true. I really think there's no reason why we shouldn't bring the draft back in this country.
And we should apply it. We should apply it to people like Donald Trump. Force him to serve. Maybe it'll make him a better person. J.B. Pritzker.
Everybody at either 18 or 21 for 1 year. Okay, let them get military service for 1 year. Pritzker would never make it. You say he's lost 100 pounds, he's got to lose another 200 before he'd be eligible to make it.
Yeah, but that's the New York City election. Trump is a big footing into that election, and he's offering this appointment to ambassadorship to Eric Adams to some unknown African American country. He don't care. And they're going to give Curtis Sliwa, as far as we know, Curtis Sliwa could become the next Director of Health and Human Services, taking the place of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. We don't know.
Well, according to some police background, maybe they could make him head of the FBI or the CIA.
Maybe he could, and Curtis, again, I like him. I'm not criticizing him, but he might appoint Curtis Sliwa to head up these ICE and National Guard units that are going to different cities to fight crime.
Does Curtis still have his radio program?
Yeah, he might. I don't know. I'm going to make sure he hears it. He's a good guy. All right. Anyway, anything more on Trump and New York City and Mamdani?
That's enough.
I don't have the video, but I got to tell you that there's a song on social media that's being followed by repeated by tens of millions of people about Zoran Mamdani, supporting him. It's amazing how much support he's getting from young people.
I
All right.
understand that the melody is the melody from the Communist Internationale. Is that true?
No, it's not.
No? Oh, okay.
It is a good
That's what I
thing.
was
So.
told.
All right. Anyway, listen, this week I wrote a column which I sent you, I think, about, and it wasn't so much about Raja Krishnamurthy, the congressman who is the multimillionaire who's running to succeed Dick Durbin over the two main rivals, Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton and Congresswoman Robin Kelly. But Krishnamurthy, I'm sure you've seen his commercials on TV, right?
You'd have to be blind not to see him.
Here's a quiz. How many letters does he have in his name?
29.
Yeah, you got it. There's an A for you. That's the one thing I learned about his multi-million-dollar campaign commercials to become the U.S. Senator, that he has an unusual name, which I can spell now, Raja Krishnamurthy, without having to look it up. I know it by heart. And that he has 29 letters in his name. What I don't know is, what are you going to do? What are the challenges that you keep saying that, oh, I'm going to confront Trump and I'm going to make this a better world? What are you going to do? What are the issues? What are your solutions for the issues? And he's not doing it. He has something like $20 million or $10 million in his campaign coffers, which towers way above his rivals, Stratton and Kelly. But he doesn't answer that. He can't even put a list together of what the top 10 crisis issues that Americans are facing. Are you bothered by the fact that he's not speaking to the issues and he's just running like Pritzker is on fighting Trump? That's the foundation of his campaign.
Well, I'm first of all bothered by the fact that he has made his name such a big issue in this campaign. That's number one. Number two, as you say, what does he stand for? We know that at one point his family was on food stamps, but I've also read where, his family turned out to be quite successful. So they've been successful here in America. He's been successful. He's a United States congressman, but he talks about poverty and fighting poverty. He talks about Trump and fighting Trump. He talks about Kennedy and fighting Kennedy. But wonderful, so he's fighting.
Right.
What is he going to do? He doesn't tell us what he's going to do. But have you ever seen, I have never seen in all the years I've followed politics, anyone on the air as much as him, as early as him. It is incredible how often he's on the air. People will believe very shortly that he is the U.S. Senator and that there's no one running against him. That's what I think is unfortunately going to happen. Now, I didn't think he was a bad guy. I still don't think he's a bad guy, but I resent his commercials, the way he is treating the Illinois voting public, and I, for one, will not vote for him. I don't know who I am going to vote for, but I'm not going to vote for him simply because he's treating me like, a person who doesn't have much smarts and is really going to be impressed with the fact that he has 29 letters in his name. He was better off when we just call him Raja.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like Raja Krishnamurthy. He's got a great smile. I bet he's a nice person. If I met him, I'm sure that we'd have a great conversation if we didn't talk about all this politics. But yeah, I agree with you. He's going down the road far further than a lot of other politicians to exploit politics without ever offering us answer. What are you going to do? You want to be the leader? You want to be Durbin? Take his seat. What are you going to do? And in the column that I posted at Hanania.com, I listed 10 issues that I thought had to be addressed. Roll back rising taxes, fight crime, address the outrageous health insurance industry and prescription costs, improve education, fight racism the right way, adjust the Social Security deduction income cap from $176,000, to $1 million. So tax everybody that makes $1 million or less. That little Social Security fee that they then put into Social Security. And for those people making $1 million or more, double the tax on Social Security and make them pay too. I mean, but these are my ideas. I'm not saying whether they're right or wrong. I'm saying at least I have some ideas. I think I'm a better candidate for the U.S. Senate than Roger Krishnamoorthi.
Well, you definitely are. There's no question about it. And I can spell your last name also.
Hanania. That I can make a song about it too. Just
Yes,
the
you
same
can.
number.
Absolutely. And you could probably use the Communist International as the melody for it also. Because I'm for capitalism. I'm not sure what you're for.
The commies don't like me, Bill. Believe me, they do not like me. As much as I try to fight for what I think is right in the Middle East, they still get really upset. But this idea, the sad thing is, I think that Raja is going to win the Democratic primary, which is in March. He has the money. Shouldn't they put limits on to make the candidates in an equal level?
No question about it. No question about it.
There's got to be. I mean, where's all this? And when you look at where his money's coming from, too, it's coming from the health insurance industry. Oh, some of his biggest donors. Yeah, it's like, what? That would be enough for me to say, don't vote for the guy. Because when you look at where his money, and you can go to that website called opensecrets.org, I think, or opensecrets. He's raised $11 million. 333,000 was from mega law firm Kirkland and Ellis. Oh. This one law firm donated 333. This was just last year in donations. They don't even have the amount that he's raised this year during the first 9 months of and 1.1 million came from health professionals. What does that tell you?
Tells 5 million. A lot of people of Indian heritage involved in the healthcare fields.
That may exactly be what it is. And that's not to say an person of Indian heritage shouldn't run. I think it'd be great, but he's doing it the wrong way. 5 million he spent on TV commercials and ads. $5 million. Are voters that stupid, Bill, that they see a guy on TV every day, 5 days a week, 5 times a day, every day of the week, and they go, oh yeah, I'm going to vote for the Smile 29-letter name guy. I don't need to know his name. It's just I know he has 29 letters. Anybody that has 29 letters in his name must mean he loves the alphabet. So I'm going to support him.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to comment on that. All I can say is that if you want to vote for a name, you go right ahead and vote for Raja. I'm looking for another candidate. I wish the Republicans had some kind of candidate.
Yeah, I wish. I know Robin Kelly. I've looked at Juliana Stratton. She was put in the race by Governor Pritzker, and she's a good person too. And the fact that he has so much money, she hasn't done any commercials. The other candidate is Congresswoman Robin Kelly. She's raised money. You go to her website, she lists all the issues that she wants to address, and she has a solution for everyone, whether you agree with it or not. At least she has some ideas. So for me, Kelly seems to be the best candidate. But
I would say at the present time, that's who I would vote for in the Democratic primary is Robin Kelly.
Yeah, and it could be a big upset and a surprise, and it maybe the voters are going to teach a lesson to politicians like Raja who believe that you can buy and Pritzker, who you can buy an election with money, and we should figure out a way to stop that. Any final thoughts at all, Bill?
Any final thoughts are, you say we should find a way to stop people from buying elections. You're absolutely correct. But just look at Pritzker and his money. He bought the governorship of Illinois twice.
Yep.
Donald Trump, how successful he has been in politics because the enormous amount of money that he has put into politics. So one of the big mistakes in this country is not having a limit on how much can be spent in congressional races, gubernatorial races, senatorial races, and for the presidency. there, if we could do something about that, I think it would help once again bring this country together. In the biggest problem we have, Ray, and you agree with me on this, is the division that exists in America between American citizens.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Bill, I'm Ray Hanania.
I'm Bill Lipinski.
And join us next week again for another episode, video and audio podcast of Two Guys on Politics.